Progress. 66. It was the Hasicha from Shabbos Parshas Noach. At that time, Shabbos Parshas Noach came out on the second day of Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan. So we're going to be skipping around a little bit in this first Sikha of the Farbrengen. Alf, Duber Li'il was spoken about earlier in the Farbrengen on Simchas Torah. The Rebbe spoke about it. Simchas Torah, at the end of Simchas Torah, Maschala Inin the Yaakov Halach L'Darkoi, begins the idea that Yaakov went on his road, went on his way. Like my father-in-law, the Friedrich Rebbe related, Lubavitch Nogel Lahachris was Torah of Yaakov Halach L'Darkoi. In Lubavitch, the custom was to announce at the end of Simchas Torah that Yaakov went on his way. The Indians this idea that at the end of Simchas Torah we proclaim this, it acts as an empowerment for the entire year. That the way we act throughout the entire year will be similar to the manner how we act in the month of Tishrei. So first the Rebbe says it's not just about Tishrei and Yaakov Halach L'Darkoi, but every Yom Tov has this capability to infuse and empower the rest of the year. Third paragraph, by prefacing, we find this in all the Yom Tovim, in addition to their own private thing that they are meant to accomplish and do at the time, skip the parentheses. They also have the empowerment and preparation for the days following that Yom Tov. For example, Rosh Hashanah. As we know, the exact language that was called the Rosh, head. It's not called the beginning of the year, the head. Because it's similar to the head that includes and draws down the life force and vitality and energy for all the limbs. So similarly to that, so to Rosh Hashanah includes and draws down life force and vitality throughout the days of the year. The same thing, the head of the month is not called the beginning of the month, it's called the head of the month. It includes and draws down life force and vitality throughout all the days of the month. And similar to this, on the day of Shabbos, in addition to what the Rebbe always emphasizes, that the Shabbos day, being the seventh day of the week, it completes and elevates all the days prior to Shabbos. The Lashon in Kabbalah and Zohar is that from Shabbos, all the following days of the week, the next week, it received their blessings from Shabbos. All the days of the week following it. So too it's in every Yom Tov. That from Yom Tov comes down life and vitality for the days following it. First of all, there is what Yom Tov, every Yom Tov has a certain common denominator. And that common denominator of Yom Tov influences all the days of the year that are not Yom Tov. What is an example of a common denominator that all Yom Tovim have? For example, the idea that Yom Tovim are times of rejoicing. That joy of the Yom Tov that happened prior it comes down ad la Yom Tov shalacharav until the following Yom Tov shabaytia oidapa alila regel. That then there will be again the pilgrimage, the going to Yerushalayim, to the Beis Hamikdash. That is the common denominator of all Yom Tovim, that they influence all the days till the following Yom Tov. Also concerning the unique aspect of every Yom Tov individually, the unique aspect of that Yom Tov is drawn down from that Yom Tov until the annual cycle returns and we come to that Yom Tov again. So the general idea of Yom Tov that all Yom Tovim share in common, that lasts until the next Yom Tov, because we're talking about a common idea. The unique thing, that is something that comes down until the next year. skip over to the next page, to skip the brackets, second paragraph on the page. That's also the idea that Yaakov went on his way. That is at the conclusion of Simchas Torah. At the end of Simchas Torah, Yid goes on his way in the avoid of the entire year. That is the empowerment. Even when he is on his way. In other words, not matters of Yom Tov, not matters of Shabbos. Throughout the year, he should still take from the Tishrei and take from Simchas Torah, that he'll be in a state and situation that is appropriate for and corresponds to the month of Tishrei. And to the degree and until he also takes along with him, and he is in concert with the conclusion of the month of Tishrei, which the conclusion of the month of Tishrei is the time of our rejoicing. From the time of our rejoicing of the end of the month of Tishrei, of the last Yom Tov of the month of Tishrei, from that we have joy for the rest of the year. The idea of joy is not some ancillary thing, it's not some auxiliary thing. There's other things that we have to take. Simcha is not that important. It says no. It's a primary and core matter in the service of Hashem. Like it says, since you did not serve Avaya your God with joy and gladness of heart, like it's explained in the writings of the Arizal and brought down in short in Tanya right away at the beginning about this important aspect of how much joy and gladness of heart plays in the service of Hashem. Let's skip over to the next page. The Rebbe is speaking about a certain particular kviyas of that year. So let's skip over to the next page. Ois Daled, after the 3 stars. Ha'amar le'il shayach, it's 2 pages later. Ha'amar le'il shayach gam le'parshas Shavua, Parshas Noach. What we said before also is connected with the parsha of the week, Parsha of Noach. Isa Medrash is brought down the Medrash Kasher Noach Yotzim Nateva when Noach left the Teva, the ark. Azai Ra Olam Chadash. He saw an entirely new world. Benegel Lechol Protein Yanim the Daimim Tzemeach Chaim Medaber, concerning all specific matters, inanimate things, vegetation, animals, and human beings. From that was founded and spread out the world in a way that it would be inhabited and settled. Skip the parentheses to the next line. The fact that there was a new world, it was because of what happened beforehand, the 40 days of the Mabel, meaning the 40 days when the rain came down, that acted as a cleansing and created a totally new world. So just like that's what took place after the 40 days, the same thing, we have other 40 days to make the world a totally new world. And similar to this, at the conclusion of the month of Tishrei, then becomes a matter that in the beginning Hashem created the heavens and the earth. We're starting from Bereshis again. That means we're reliving Bereshis. We have a new world, just like Noach went into a new world. Hashemayim HaChadoshim V'Aretz Chadasha, Daf Torah having to do with the following Rish Chodesh is the new heavens and the new earth. Again, the same idea of a renewal, just like Noach witnessed the new world. And just like Noach had it after the 40 days of the Mabul, and this comes after the preparation of the 40 days beginning from the first day of El until Yom Kippur. This corresponds and is similar to the 40 days of the Mabul. Even though the 40 days ends with Yom Kippur, but the Rebbe says by extension it also includes Chag HaSukkos, Shminat Zeres Simchas Torah, it includes Yom Chagenu, when it says the idea of Yom Chagenu, Chag, Sukkos is just called Chag, day of celebration. She'oz Mizgalim Anyan She'etchila B'Kesed, then it revealed those matters that were initially concealed. It says that it's Bakesel Yom Chagenu. Tika B'Chodesh Shofar Bakesel Yom Chagenu. What was initially concealed on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur becomes revealed on Sukkot. So therefore, even though the 40-day period, which prepares us for a totally new world of Bereshis, Baruch Kimas Shemaim V'Sa'aretz, seemingly concluded with Yom Kippur, but Sukkot and Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeres were all included and concealed in the days of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and now it just came out. So therefore, Sukkot and Simchas Torah are also part of the process to bring a new world of Bereshis, Baruch Kimas Shemaim V'Sa'aretz, just like the 40 days of the Mabul, the 40 days of the flood, brought about the new world that Noach saw. And the Rebbe goes on and says, like we said earlier, when we go out to the avoid of the entire year that Yaakov went on his way, we need to draw down what the idea of the month of Tishrei was about, and not just any level of Tishrei ad until including the Simchas Torah. We have to bring the Simchas Torah into the year. The mitzvah of the day of Simchas Torah is about joy, just like the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah is shofar, the mitzvah of Yom Kippur is tshuva and fasting, the mitzvah of Sukkot is about lulav and sukkah. The same thing, the mitzvah of the day of Simchas Torah is joy. Nigun, singing, v'rikud, and dancing. Bari Simcha peretzes gather. Simcha breaks through boundaries. Shemivateles kol amdidas v'agbolas, that it nullifies, it takes away all types of limitations and boundaries. Like we see with our own senses, we see tangibly what a kind person, even though he might be kind all the time, but when he's in a time of joy, he gives kindness without limitation. So we see how kindness breaks through all barriers. Why is it, that joy breaks through all barriers? Why is it that joy has that tendency to break through all barriers? Because joy comes along with a revelation of the essence of the soul, that the essence of the soul has no boundaries on it. And despite the fact that it breaks through boundaries and barriers, it comes down the service of the entire year, mitzvahs and matters of Torah mitzvahs, the way it comes down divided into details of time and place, with all the measures and limitations and exactitude of matters of mitzvahs. So despite the fact that mitzvahs have specific time, specific place, specific measurements, etc., in that finite and divided and detailed aspect of the mitzvahs, the infinite shines through because of the Simcha. Simcha kosher in Parshas Noach. Also, the idea of joy is connected with Parshas Noach. Because the idea of Noach, according to Kabbalah, is like his name. Noach is from the word of pleasing spirit. Nachas ruach. Shekashur gam im inyan simcha. It's also connected. Nachas ruach has to do with joy. It makes the person happy. V'hainu, what does this mean? Noach Paul v'himshach ba'olam inyan simcha. Noach affected and drew down to the world the idea of joy. Al derech hamshachas inyan simcha misimchas Torah al kol hashana kula, similar to drawing down the idea of joy from Simchas Torah for the entire year. We can add in explaining the connection, the association of the idea of joy to Parshas Noach. So the Rebbe is going to bring a little bit Kabbalah. We're just going to go through it in a very limited fashion. Yedua, it's known, what's brought down Kabbalah, Shetevas Noach Kshurim Sfiras Habina. The ark of Noach has to do with the Sfira in Atzilus of Bina, which is also Alma de Cherusa. Bina has to do with the world of freedom, it's called, because there's the 50 gates of Bina. The number 50 is associated with the Jubilee, when everyone goes free and all the lands return to their owners, etc., etc. So it has to do, Bina has to do with freedom. Therefore, in the ark was also a manifestation of the idea of freedom. The the way the animals were in the ark was in such a way that they did not do bad and they did not destroy each other, they did not fight with each other. The Pasuk Lo Yoreh V'Lo Yashchisu says concerning Mashiach's times, as we will mention. But the Teva of Noach, as we will mention, was a Me'ein Olam Haba. It was similar to Mashiach's times. That's why it's brought down, the Rebbe brings it down. Noach didn't want to leave the Teva because he was experiencing the wonders of Mashiach's times in the Teva. So therefore, the Rebbe says, "V'zeu gam inyan hasimcha shebechlal yom tovim shnekroim ma'adim l'simcha." This is also the joy that's in the general Yom Tovim that are called Yom Tovim for joy, ubefrat b'chag HaSukkos, especially the Yom Tov Sukkos. And the Rebbe in the brackets says that we know that the Yom Tov Sukkos begins on the 15th of Tishrei, and the waters of Noach was 15 amos higher than the highest place in the world, so that 15 and 15 has an association. Let's skip the brackets, 2 lines down. Shenikras man simchaseinu, the Yom Tov Sukkos is called the time of our rejoicing. Simcha is also, joy is also connected to Sfiras Habina, like it says, Eim habanim smecha, the mother of the children rejoices. And we know, Chachma Bina from Tanya, Chachma is the father, Bina is the mother. So when it says the mother of the children is rejoicing, it means Bina. Therefore, therefore, just like we said, Noach's Teva has the idea of freedom, so too Yom Tov has the idea of freedom. Yom Tov also has to do with the sphere of Bina. Shabbos has to do with Chachma. In Yom Shal Spheres HaBina, freedom, as we said before, the sphere of Bina, Alma de Cherusa, the world of freedom. This idea of Cherus is expressed in the fact that all Yidden are friends. In other words, the opposite of what the animals could have been. Could have been the animals would have been fighting. Instead, they weren't fighting, showing on freedom. The same thing. What does it mean, freedom by Yidden? Freedom by Yidden means Kol Yisrael Chavedim. All Yidden are called fellows and comrades and friends. From this freedom and joy of Sukkot and the Ark of Noach, we come to the freedom of Mashiach's times. And that time is when it says the pasuk Lo Yoreh V'Lo Yashchisu B'chol Har Kodshi, they shall not do bad, and they shall not destroy in my whole holy mountain. Because the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, like the waters covers the sea. That's the state and situation of the future time that's going to be through Mashiach. All of Namar Bas Cholsa Inyan, concerning that, it says at the beginning of Lo Yoreh V'Lo Yashchisu V'Yatzach Chaytim Geza Yishay V'Neitzim Mishrosh Yifra, that a shoot will come out from the offspring of Yishai being the father of David, and from the roots will come up a shoot that will be fruitful. So he says it's a step-by-step process. The order is first it starts the way it was thousands of years ago, that in the Ark of Noach there was freedom, there was no fighting around. Then there's the idea of the joy and the freedom and the Kol Yisrael Chaverim that's in every Yom Tov. Then we'll be able to arrive at the matter that they will not do bad and they will not destroy the way it's going to be in the future time. In a much higher level, incomparably. Now, this freedom and this non-fighting around is only specific times and specific places. The Ilu Lasid Love, as opposed to Mashiach's times, this will be in every single one, in every time, in every place. Since then it will be fulfilled what was foretold. The entire world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem like the waters cover the sea. Which was the reason given why will be Lo Yoreh V'Lo Yashchisu, because the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. So we see, since the world is filled with it, so that means the world will be filled with peace. Though, even when Mashiach comes, there'll be different levels of people, from the most minor to the greatest. It became still in all. It'll be by all reveal the idea of the waters cover the sea and the knowledge of Hashem, and therefore there will be the peace amongst them. Let's see further we'll skip over to the next page. Second paragraph on the page. All of this we could affect and influence now. The matter is only dependent on the avoid of every single yid. Should be that every yid has the key to this. Rambam, like the expression of the Rambam, a person needs to see themselves and also has to look at the entire world as half meritorious and half the opposite. Also, mitzvah achas, if he does one mitzvah, so then he tilted the scale for himself and the entire world to the side of merit. He causes for himself and for them the entire world's salvation. How is that? What does he have to do that's going to be similar to and bring about that time? That the way that he acts in such a manner that the world is filled with the knowledge of Hashem like the waters cover the sea. What does that mean that I act in such a manner? This means that in the revealed way, what do you see by this person? You only see the waters of Torah. That is his main existence is Torah. Skip the parentheses to the next line. Then Hashem assists him. That the great waters of the burdens of making a living will not disturb him until it becomes a state and situation that they will not do any wickedness, not destroy my entire holy mountain. So the Rebbe goes on involved the general idea of freedom that we've been talking about before, that was in the Teva of Noach and so on. It's connected with the idea of joy. We said before, we alluded to this before, from the Alter Ben Tanya and from the writings of the Arizal, that's the underlying cause of Golus is the lack of joy. Like it says in that pasuk in Parshas since you do not serve Hashem your God with joy and gladness of heart, so then you will serve your enemies. In other words, the fact that we under our enemies and we're in Golus is connected with a lack of joy. How do you move and so it's understood? That how does one repair this? How does one fix it up? Through the idea of joy. Therefore, this is a primary thing. Because through this we affect the idea of redemption. Like the Rebbe says, we spoke about on Simchas Torah, it is super quick. This is more about the story that my father-in-law related. When Tzemach Tzedek visited Jewish soldiers in the city of Kronstadt, where they had a big army base, so the soldiers, the Jewish soldiers, told them to conquer a city, one has to go with a joyous march. Also concerning the redemption, we effect it specifically through joy. So let's skip over to the next page. The third paragraph from the top. It's demanded of every single one that they should have the idea of joy. Because only through joy can we effect the idea of redemption. So he says, the Yitzhahara could still try to mix in and to disturb the person with matters of sadness. It's known the vort that the Mittler Rebbe said in his youth. It says, Atzabeim kesev v'zov. Atzabeim literally means their idols are of silver and gold. But the Tzemach Tzedek the Middle Rebbe translated it a different way. The cause of a person's sadness, atzabeim, lashon atzvos, the word atzabeim, from the word sadness, is because one is immersed in matters of silver and gold. Since this was a statement said by our Rabbeim, our leaders, so this is a directive, and not just a directive, but also an empowerment. When a Yid comes to a state of sadness, he needs to think into what is the cause of this sadness. Is it because of matters of silver and gold? And if he thinks into it, he realizes that he's sad because of silver and gold. And through that, the sadness will not become nullified, and he will arrive at joy. The Parshas, and simply put, since everything is in the hands of heaven except for the fear of heaven, and the entire sustenance and parnos of a person is already established for the rest of the year. From the days of Rosh Hashanah till Yom Kippur, it's decided what will be the situation with his money that upcoming year. So it's understood, all matters connected with silver and gold is not within the person's control. It's all by Dei Shomayim. Elahem bi Dei Shomayim. V'im kein, if so, even when he makes a calculation, that when it comes to his state and situation, he should have had more silver and gold. There's no reason for him to be sad about it. The sadness will not benefit anything whatsoever. And then the Rebbe adds even more so. The atzvus will make it worse. The nature of sadness is it causes a constriction in all his limbs and organs, and all of his powers, and all of his senses, and his thoughts, speech, and deed. When a person is constrained and squeezed down here below, so that, heaven forbid, affects constraint above as well. It's brought down Zohar, that the way they act from above is similar to the way they act from below. Like the waters that you show, that like the waters reflect the face back to you that you show in the water. So the type of face we have, that's the type of image that comes back to us from above. If a person is feeling constrained, so then the way things come down from above to below will also be in a way of constrainment and constriction. Whether spiritual constraint or physical constraint. Specifically through joy, we affect. Also the way we act from above will be out of joy. Through that will come down below revealed kindnesses. Both in spiritual matters there should be revealed kindness, and also material matters you should have revealed kindness. In the Kudus Inyan, the Rebbe concludes, the point of the matter is, the general service of Hashem has to be out of joy. Both the joy of Torah, it should affect an increase in Torah study. It should be in the way of much and broadness. I go in the way of broadness. Through the increase and the broadness in Torah, this will bring about also an increase and a broadness and a breadth also in matters of the world. And the Rebbe brings in the parentheses that the Zohar says that when we increase in Torah and add in Torah, so then that makes that there's a new world and a new earth. It should come down from his full, open, and holy hand. V'gam ha'gedusha. Gedusha means in his overflowing hand. Yoisa Gamam Leah. That's even more than Yodai Hamleah, than a full hand, when it's overflowing. Varachava, in his broad hand. So it comes down all physical blessings. V'hein Simcha Shel Mitzvah. And also we should have the joy of a mitzvah. Shetifloi Safa B'kima Mitzvah Behidr. When you're doing a mitzvah out of joy, you don't do the mitzvah with the calculated type of intent. I'm only going to do it such a degree and only so much and so little, etc., etc. You're going to add an increasing and beautifying the mitzvah. V'simcha zu tifris as kol agdarim. And this joy will break through all barriers and boundaries. Including and specifically those that find themselves in states of constraint and captivity, prison, like all the different names that this is called. That the joy will break through the barriers. It will affect freedom for the prisoners, that they will go out of their constraints to broadness and breadth. We're not just talking about individuals, but we're talking about a community. It seems to be that the Rebbe is referring to the Jews in the Soviet Union, because he's not talking about individual prisoners, he's talking about a community of people in prison, unless there was some other event going on at that time. It's known, the question of the philosophers, how is it possible? Sometimes we see that we follow what it says in the Torah. It says, when you will go in my statutes and you will observe my mitzvahs, and still in all, and still in all, we don't see it being fulfilled, where it says over there that I will give you the rains in their times, etc. So how is it possible, Hashem said in the Torah, that when you do these things, I will give you all the blessings? The philosophers answered, when it's talking about an individual, it could be possible that this promise will not be in an open way. Of course, in the hidden ways, this is to be found, but an individual, even if an individual does Torah mitzvahs, does not mean that openly revealed we'll see that he has all the blessings. But the Torah, in that context, we're talking about the community. It must come out in a revealed way, like we saw throughout the times when Yidden were in Eretz Yisrael, that when they followed the mitzvahs, the rains came, etc., etc. Concerning the breaking through the barriers, through joy, concerning the community has to be the breaking through barriers, that we should see it openly. Such a way that surely all will go out from their constraints to the broadness, until the general idea that Yidden are rejoicing in their Maker, and Hashem rejoices in his people, in the Jewish people that he made. And the final line that Rebbe says, that this one we just now said, Yismach, is the same letters like the word Mashiach. Yovav Yigaleinu B'Karav Mamish, he should come and redeem us soon, Mamush.